Hey, it's Callum here. In this series, we're going to learn how to add analytics to a Knack app. The end result is going to be a report like this where we can view unique sessions. So each time a user opens your app in a new tab and filter by date range, country, region, and city. And so you can see where your users are accessing your app from. We're also going to be able to view which pages are being viewed in our app, filter by date range again, country or region. And for a details page about a single team member, we can also see what record was viewed. So not just the team member details page in general, but the team member details page about me or Obi-Wan Kenobi or Anakin Skywalker. Once again, this can be filtered by whatever we need. To do this, we're going to use a simple Knack app with one table of data and a couple of pages. We're going to use a little bit of custom code which you can copy paste into your app with only a tiny bit of adjustment. We're going to use a make scenario that we can use in a free make account. We're going to store our analytics data in a Google Sheets spreadsheet. And we're going to build our reporting based on that analytics data in a free Google Looker Studio project. Okay, so let's launch in. So I already have a basic Knack app set up. In my app, I just have one table called team members with the field name and bio. And I have a couple of example records in there. Me, Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, with nothing very useful written in the bio. Then I have some pages set up. I have a home page that just contains a rich text that says home, an about page that's the same, a page called team, which contains a list view of the team members, and a link to view one team member's details. And on that page, we can view one team member with a details view. So in the front end, that looks like this: home page with nothing on it, about page with nothing on it, team member page in a list where we can see the team members, click through to view one team member. That's all I've done. There's no user roles, anything else, and there's no custom code, anything like that. So very, very simple, basic Knack app. So now we're going to set up our Knack app with Make to log the analytical data to a Google spreadsheet. So I have a Google spreadsheet set up with my correct column names, and this is what we're going to fill in. So I've also got one example row of data in here. So date time is the date time that the event happened. Our events, we want to be logging both scene render, which is the render of an individual page. So scene render, scene render, scene render. So any individual page that your user visits. But we also want to log a new session. And this isn't a strict session like Google Analytics would do. It's just loading the app in a new tab or refreshing. So the first time someone loads an app in a new tab, we're going to call that a session. And then subsequent clicks are not new sessions, they're just renders of a page. So when I first load a page, this will be both a new session and a page, a scene render, so visiting a page. And then subsequent navigation will just be scene renders or loading a page. So it's going to be scene render or session start in new tab. Then we're going to log some other values. Not all of them are going to be used in our analytics that we're going to build, but they're generally useful things to have a record of. So different versions of the URL, which we can automatically extract from our Knack app. So the full URL of the page that was visited, the URL after your app kind of base URL, so this part, and then a different version of that if there's a query string, for example, if we have filters, which would look like, it's not exactly like this, but filter equals whatever. This is called a query string, which is kind of like additional information that doesn't actually relate to the page you're on. So that would be included here, but not included in this one, but would be included in this one. So just different versions of the URL that could be useful later that we're not actually going to use in this case. Then we've got scene name. So that's the builder name of the page. So team member details, about, whatever you see here in the page tree. Scene key, that is the ID of the scene, which you can see in the URL. So scene 4, scene 3, scene 3, scene 4, scene 5, etc. Record ID, that's going to be the ID of the team member when we're on the team member page. So you can see here there's a record ID in the URL, which refers to one team member record. So it doesn't happen on every page, but it does happen on like a child page where you're viewing one record. So that's going to record there. We're going to want to record that there if it's present. And then the country, region, and city of wherever the user accessed the page, I'll show you how to find. And then the team member name. So this is I've accessed the Anakin Skywalker page, so it's not very useful to only show that I've accessed record 66298 blah blah blah. It's more useful for me to know that it's the Anakin Skywalker page or the Calambo's page. So that's what we're going to put there. So these columns are more than what we need to make our analytics work, but they're also generally useful. But it contains all the information that we do need. So now we're going to set up Make and our Knack app JavaScript to fill this spreadsheet with the required data. So I already have a free make.com account, and I'm going to create a new scenario to start with. Okay, so I'm going to choose webhook, custom webhook. Then I'm going to hit create webhook, and I'm going to call it Knack app analytics demo. And then I need to open the advanced settings and include request headers and request method, which we're going to use later to get the IP address. And the IP address is what of the user who requested it is what will allow us to get the location of the user approximately. Okay, so now Make is waiting for a new call of this webhook, so waiting for us to send it some data. So we're going to leave that waiting, and we're going to go to our Knack app, and we're going to go to the JavaScript area. So settings, API encode, JavaScript. We're going to paste in the code that makes this work. Now I'll leave a link to the code in the description of this video. So let's have a quick look at what this code does before we save it and try it out. So we have this variable here that says, have we sent the session start log? So that starts as false. So as long as that's false, we're going to send the session start log. Once that's true, we're not going to send the session start log. So that's that session start in new tab. So that's going to help us make sure that we only send the session start at the start of a new tab being opened or refreshing a page, and not on every scene render. Then on the render of every scene, so every page that loads in the app, we're going to see if we've sent the session start log. If we haven't, then we're going to send that session start log and indicate that we have now sent it so that the next time it won't run again. So send the session start log if applicable. And then every time a page loads, we're also going to send the scene render log. So what does that log look like? Well, that's this function called send log that we have below. That's what is called by both of these, and we pass in the event name, which is session start in new tab, or scene render whenever we call that function, as well as the scene data, which we get from Knack when a page renders. So the send log basically extracts the needed data from the browser and from the Knack scene object. So we set the event name, the various URLs, scene name, scene key, and we get the record ID if it's there. Otherwise, we say the record ID is NA. Then it actually sends a post request to our make webhook. So we need to put in our proper make webhook there. I've got my old demo one in there, so I'm going to copy that. Should be able to click to copy. Copy address to clipboard. I'm going to paste that in here. And then I'm going to save. So then I'm going to go to my front end and refresh. And when that loads, I should see in make that I've gotten some data, and we see it successfully determined the data structure. So it received an event. So that kind of disappears there. So I'm just going to go run once. I'm going to refresh my page again. And I'll see the data that comes in from Knack, and we can have a look at it. Okay, there it is. So we get the event, full URL hash, blah, 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 all those things that we expect. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is get the user's location. So we don't have anything like that at the moment. However, because we turned on headers in the advanced options when we created the webhook, we have a bunch of information here about from the browser, basically that automatically sent by the browser that requested this, like that sent this request to make. So if we expand them out, we see a bunch of stuff that's not very useful to us, but we see this x-real-ip thing, and here we have this value. So this is my IP address on the internet right now, which is just a way of identifying my computer on the internet or my network on the internet. So we're going to use that to get the approximate location where I am right now. It's not very exact, but it's good enough for our analytics, and probably the same as most analytics give you. So we're going to use a service called ip2location.io. So ip2location.io. I've just signed up for a free account and validated my email, and now I'm logging in. Okay, so on my dashboard, I get this API key, and I'm going to use that in make to validate that I can request the location based on an IP address. So I'm going to copy that. And when I first signed up for my account, there was a message here that was here for a few minutes saying it takes a few minutes for your API key to start working. And I did find when I was testing that I had to wait like 4 or 5 minutes before it worked. So if you're having trouble, wait 5 minutes and then try again, and hopefully it'll work for you. Okay, so I'm going to add a new module to make, and I'm going to search for the IP2 location. And I'm going to go look up an IP address. Okay, so I'm going to add a new connection. I'm going to call it whatever I want to call it, and add my API key. Okay, so there is my my account for this IP2 location service. Now the IP address, it's a little tricky to get at from our headers. So to start with, just for testing purposes, I'm just going to go and manually copy it. So copy and paste, and we'll just make sure that it works. And then once that's done, we're going to actually fill it with the IP address of the requester properly. So I'm going to right click and say run this module only, and let's see what I get back. Here's the IP address I put in, and out of that I get that I'm in Australia, New South Wales, and in Sydney. So that's a pretty approximate location for me, but it is accurate. I'm near Sydney. I also get a latitude and longitude, which is also very approximate. So that is working to get us an IP address. Now we need to fill it with the IP address from the original request to our webhook. So to do that, we're going to edit this IP location step, and I'm going to paste in a formula that I worked out earlier. basically the headers here is an array, so it's kind of tricky to work with. It means like a list of many different items. And this map function is one of the built-in functions available in Make, which you can find in here. And it basically allows you to pick a certain value from an array. So I'm saying from the array of headers, get the value, the value called value, where the name is X real IP. So if we go back to here, you can see that yeah, anyway, we'll have a look at that in more detail when we trigger it. So you can pause and type that out, and hopefully it'll work for you as well. It should do, as long as you've set it up exactly this way. So we're going to run once, wait for new data, go and refresh our app, and make sure that that still works to give us our IP address. The Knack is refreshing, waiting in here for our webhook to trigger. Okay, and there it went. So we got our data from Knack again, which contained our IP address, and where I was saying the key, like the value, I need the value where name is X real IP. So I need to find the item in the array whose name is X real IP, and I need to get the value of that. So there's a weird use of value multiple times, but I'm getting this value basically out of it. So that's what that function means. And I got back my location data based on that IP address again, showing the same as when I'd manually copy pasted it. Okay, so now we have most of the values that we need. We have all of these columns of values, and the only thing we're missing is team member name. We're just going to skip team member name for now and just get these filling into this spreadsheet automatically, and then we'll come back to team member name at the end. I'm going to add a new module, Google Sheets, add row. I've already connected my Google account. It's very easy to do, so I won't bother showing that. Then I'm going to go and copy my spreadsheet ID from the URL. You can just navigate through to it in Make, but I find it easier just to copy the URL, the spreadsheet ID there. So I'm going to say enter manually, spreadsheet ID, and then sheet name should load. Oh no, I need to say that. Yep, so sheet 1. And then the column range A to Z. And then I choose what values go in there. So I'm going to pick the values that I need and make sure they line up with my column headers. So date time will be a formula where I use the now argument, which gets the current time, and then I format that into the required format, which is year, month, day, hour, minute. So it ends up looking like that, which is how I want it. Then column B, C, D, E, F, G, and H are all from my original trigger of the webhook. So I'm going to fill the first one of them, which is event, and then I'm going to just pause and fill the rest myself, so you don't have to watch me do that. So I'm going to find the webhook trigger and event, and then just one more full URL hash. Webhook trigger, full URL hash. Okay, so I've just gone and done that same process, filling all the way through to column H, record ID. Then I need country, region, and city, and those are from my IP address lookup. So country name, region name, city name. And then column L, we don't have a value for yet, so we're going to leave it as is. So now I'm going to run and refresh my Knack app, and hopefully I see that that data fills in. So that Knack app is refreshing, and I'm waiting for the webhook to be triggered. Okay, it's triggered and it went and it ran, and I should see that something was added to row 4 of my spreadsheet. And if I come in here, I do in fact see that I have all the values entered into row 4. So now we want to get the team member name instead of just the record ID of the team member. So we want to be able to get Anakin Skywalker filling in. So we loaded the team details page on Callum Bowes, but we didn't get a team member name yet because we haven't set up the logic for that. So we're going to add a new module. It's going to use Knack this time. Get a record from Knack. Now we're going to add a new connection to our Knack app. So I can do that by looking at my API code and application ID. Copy paste them in. This app's going to be deleted when I'm done, so it's okay for me to show you the API key at the moment because it won't be there for long. Then I'm going to save that. I probably should have named the connection, but that'll be fine. Okay, and then I can get my object. So that takes a little minute to load. So I'm going to get a team member, and the record ID is going to be from my trigger. Record ID there. So let's run and see what happens. Refresh our app, wait for the webhook to be triggered and for the scenario to run. Okay, so it's running now, and seems like I successfully got a record from Knack. Got my name based on the record ID. So this actually should have been in here. So I'm going to move things around for a second. Okay, I can't figure out how to move a module. I'm sure it's possible, but I'm just going to go add a module here, and I'm going to pause and just rebuild what I did here. Okay, so I've done that. I'm just rerunning it, and once again, I'm getting a record from Knack with my name based on the record ID. Okay, so now I just need to put that into my spreadsheet in the final column. So I'm going to choose the raw version of the name and run again to make sure it actually fills in properly to the spreadsheet. Okay, I paused and let it run, and now it's done, and I see that the name comes through. Now let's see what happens if I load a page that doesn't have a record ID. So I'm going to go back to the team page in a second once I'm running my scenario. So this team page doesn't have a record ID. It's just a pure page about a lot of records. So there's no like team member to get. So my scenario ran, but I get an error here saying that no record was found. So I'm going to need to add a little branch of logic here to only try and get a record from Knack if there's a record ID. So the first thing I'm going to do is right click here and go add a router. And then I'm going to click the plus button and add a new route as well. Okay, so then I only want this route to run if there's a record ID. So I'm going to go set up a filter. Only if there is a record ID. Condition record ID is not equal to NA, which is what we pass in if there's no record ID. Okay, so now I should see that this only runs if there's a record ID present. And then this route only should run if there is not a record ID, only if record ID is NA. So once again, I'm going to say record ID equal to NA instead of not equal to NA. And now I just need the Google Sheets step here, and I can just clone the module, put it there, get rid of that extra bit. And the only change I need to make here is that I'm not going to have a name, which is that column L. So now let's save and make sure it's all working. So we're going to turn on scheduling, and then we're going to render a few pages. So let's just get rid of all our example data here, data fresh. And we're going to load our Knack app. watch make running and watch our spreadsheet get filled. Okay, so we should have gotten a row about, oh, everything's bold. So we got a session start in new tab on the team page, as well as a scene render of the team page. Now I'm going to navigate to the Anakin Skywalker page. Should see that running. So we get scene render of the Anakin Skywalker page. And we got a second scene render here. So I'm going to go have a look at what's going on there. So I've just confirmed that whenever we load the team member page, we're getting 2 events, which means something's probably gone wrong with our filtering. So we're going to go into edit, see what's happening with this filter here. Okay, when we moved things around, our filter got destroyed. So we'll go again, only if no record ID. Get the record ID again, equal to NA. Then we're going to save and exit and try one more time. So navigating to the team member page, we see the webhook run, and we only get 1 event. A little bit more testing, go to the home page, go to the about page, back to the team member page, go to OB1. Hopefully we see all of those come through. Home, about, team member, OB1. And last thing, we notice that we only got session start in new tab once, and then everything else is scene render. If I refresh or open it in a new tab, same thing. I should see the session start in new tab event come through again in a second. Scene render, session start in new tab. We're getting correct date timestamps, so everything looks like it's working well. So that is the basics of analytics in terms of getting the data that we need. In the next video, we're going to look at using Google Looker Studio to actually make our reporting for that, based on what we saw at the start of the video. If you like this content and want more how-tos to do with Knack, like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you'll get notified about any new videos that I release. I also do Knack development and Knack coaching. So if you want to get in touch, feel free to use the contact form on my website, enlivenmentit.com.au/contact, and let me know what you need help with and we can talk.